Good. On the left, bro, you sweet?
Nah. Big head.
Yeah, alright, sweet, let's kick it off. New Zealand captain, Sophie Devine.
Cheers.
Sophia, a narrow defeat in the end. Where did you feel it went away?
It's a tough one. You probably look back at every single ball of that game and probably could find different things for each ball that played. I thought probably near the end there we probably lacked a few too many runs, didn't execute quite as we would have liked at the death, but we know the threat that they bring with their batting order, that they bat deep. But look, I thought it was a fantastic chase by us to get so close at the end there and, you know, to miss out by, I think it was 4 runs in the end. It shows that we're close.
And the idea to bowl first, was Amy Satterthwaite inspired?
No, it wasn't. We just felt that, look, the wicket was a good wicket, and it certainly proved that. I think it was the highest score at this ground for a while. So, look, I thought we just could put the Australians under pressure, and I thought we did. Like I say, they would probably let them off the hook a little bit near the end of the innings and nearly came away with the win. It sort of would have been a master stroke if we had have won, but it's not to be.
There's a thing that sort of, I guess, hangs around in ICC tournaments in the past several editions that not quite going as far as perhaps your talent should lead you. It's happened again. Is it? What do you think it is that sort of stops New Zealand getting to those last stages?
Yeah, geez, it's a great question. I think certainly skill-wise we're there. I think everyone knows that we're a really talented side and we're growing that depth. And we've seen today, even with myself, Susie not firing, Rachel Priest not firing, we came close to chasing down a really strong Australian side. So whether it's a mindset, whether it's a mental thing, whether it's game awareness, whether it's just experience playing in those pressure situations, which we haven't played too much international cricket together the last 12 months, whether that's something as well, but it's certainly something. When we get back home, we'll certainly go through everything and nitpick at it, because it's a crappy feeling to miss out again. And look, it's really raw, but we certainly want to keep pushing and showing that we deserve to be there.
And just in that period after Susie's wicket, I think there were 2 runs scored off 12 balls. I know you mentioned the bowling and maybe not restricting them, but how important do you think the running between the wickets and maybe those little singles were, particularly in that period?
Yeah, look, and that's why Australia are such a good side, is because they strangle teams, and we're no different. I thought Wareham today was outstanding, the way she bowled and restricted. JJ again does what JJ does. But for us, it's about how you can get around that and how you can get up and down the wicket and break that up and get a bit of momentum back your way. As we saw, we were needing 12, 13s off the last 4 or 5 overs, and we nearly done it. So I think that's really poor English, but it just shows us there that you have to absorb pressure sometimes, especially in these pressure situations. If you can absorb and then give it back, that's what's going to make us a great team. It's just about how we do that for longer periods and then pump it back at the opposition.
Georgia, you mentioned her spell, and I guess she was both economical but also the wicket taking option. Is it a little bit of a different thing to face Australia now, where they're having to rely a bit on spin, obviously they lost Taylor before the tournament and Elise has gone down today? It's a different scenario? Yeah,
I think it is. I think as well the pitch conditions, obviously we've probably spoken a little bit about it, that conditions certainly haven't been what we expected when we first came over to Australia. As soon as we heard the World Cup was here, we thought nice, fast, bouncy wickets, and probably haven't had those, although today's wicket was a lot better. Obviously had a bit more carry and bounce in it. But spin has played a massive part throughout the tournament, and it will continue to do so moving into the final series. And certainly with Australia losing Taylor early in the competition, I know that was a massive blow for them. But we also know, again, their depth, spoken a lot about with the bat, but certainly with the ball, the way Georgia Wareham stood up today was fantastic. Megan Shute as well. Geez, I hate her sometimes, but look, they're world-class players, and I think that's the great thing about Australia. I mean, I don't like blowing them up too much because they've got big enough heads already, but it doesn't matter who on the day, someone always seems to step up for them. And is there even, I suppose, as an opponent, a bit of sympathy for Elise going down like that? Looked fairly substantial. Anyone that goes down at a world event at any point is really hard to see, and especially someone like Elise, who yeah, we know what she brings to the women's game, and I know, people were saying, oh, she might not play this game. I didn't have any doubts that she was going to play. She'd had to have her leg amputated for her not to take the field, and I mean, it looked like she nearly did snap her leg off. So, look, I really hope she has a speedy recovery, whatever injury she's sustained. But it's a real blow for the women's game. I know it definitely will be for Australia, but, the world loses out on a great player.
Sophie, you said spin has played a part in this World Cup. New Zealand have always been a team who embraced the pace that Leah brings to your side, but the last couple of games saw her only used for that 1 over and then not used thereafter. What was the feeling with those plans?
I think, again, today sort of goes back to the pitch conditions. We've obviously seen the last 2 games that sort of steady medium paces, bowling stump to stump, has been really effective, whereas the extra pace is at times a bit easier to get hold of, and especially if you only have to miss by a millimetre and it seems that the ball flies to all corners of the park. So, look, we certainly still back Leah massively. I think when you've got someone with that extra pace, she's always going to be a threat. It's just about how we use her and how we can match her up against certain players. So, again, that's something that we'll need to go away and think about how we use not just Leah but all our bowlers and who they match up with best.
And again, considering after the last tournament there were some questions, there was a little bit of a contractual overhaul back in New Zealand, more money going into the game, new leadership with yourself and Bob Carter coming into this tournament. Was the environment slightly different coming in? Was there a little more belief that even back home the right steps were being taken, there was a new pair in charge? Was the environment different?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, you're bang on the money there. There was a big overhaul, and it wasn't just at the top level with the White Ferns, it's the domestic stuff as well. New Zealand cricket has invested a lot into the women's game. We've seen globally that women's cricket is certainly coming on in leaps and bounds, and we're no different. I think for us, having Bob involved has been huge, and you've got to remember that he's only been in the job 12 months, but we've only played 2 series in that time with him at the helm, and I know we've had a few winter camps in that time, but we're certainly still trying to figure each other out a little bit, certainly me and Bob. But I think that there's really positive signs there. I think the group is obviously, as I've said, we're actually really close. You see the Indian game, this game here, we're really close to sides that have a lot more money, have a lot more resources, have a lot more player depth than we do. And to think that we've taken both of them to within, 5-6 runs, it shows that we're not far, but it does. We're going to have to do things slightly different in New Zealand because we don't have the same amount of people, we don't have the same amount of resources, but we certainly do have things in our favour, and that's what we've got to keep working at.
Just on that theme, you mentioned match-ups. New Zealand don't have a left armour or a left-handed batter in the lineup. Kind of makes things a little bit predictable for this tournament. How do you develop those types of players so that you've got more flexibility at your disposal at future tournaments?
Well, you get Amy Satterthwaite to stop having children. That sort of that helps. But no, look. Yeah, look, it certainly is an area, and we've seen the left arm spin throughout this tournament again has been massive. Obviously, Sophie Eccleston as well. Up the top there, it is a real threat in the women's game, and we certainly are taking steps back in New Zealand to identify young left armers, whether that's spin, pace or left-hand bats. We do know that it sort of does add a bit of variety to your side, but you can only pick what you've got in front of you. So, yeah, it is. It's certainly something moving ahead. Obviously, we've got a massive world event back at home in just over 12 months' time, which we're really looking forward to, and hopefully then there might be a few more left-handers. Hopefully Branch, Amy and Leah, little Grace might be a left-hander. Fingers crossed, we'll get her in the nets.
Jacob Woram said yesterday that he quite likes your attacking style of captaincy. How have you enjoyed this stint, especially in a first world tournament in the role, and also if given the opportunity in the near future to carry on with captaincy even after Amy returns, would you be keen on continuing?
Yes, certainly. I guess that's a discussion again that needs to be had if and when Amy returns to the side and what that looks like leadership-wise. But yeah, I guess for me, I've always been, an aggressive player, and I sort of want to continue that with my captaincy. I think we had a great role model in Brendan McCullum a couple of years ago who always took the game on, and I don't want to be any different with this bunch of female athletes. We do want to be really attacking and aggressive in how we go about things, whether that's putting people under the lid in the field, whether it's bouncing people out, whatever it might be. Bob always talks about stepping forward rather than taking a step back, and that's certainly what we want to do, not only with my leadership but with this whole group.
You did mention the lack of international cricket over the past year and a World Cup next year. What does the next year look like for you guys? Are you playing more cricket?
I hope so. I actually have no idea. I know we're going to Sri Lanka in about a month or so time, which is really exciting. And then there's a few camps on the horizon. I do think we're taking on Aussie at the start of summer again, which I think is a great fixture to set off what's going to be a massive summer for us back at home. I think there are a few international sides looking to come over to New Zealand, which is great, and I think that's the way the women's game's going, is there's more cricket being played now, and that's certainly what we want to be involved with, and we want to be playing the top sides. I think you learn a lot about yourself when you come up against sides that are ranked higher than you, and as well it's about playing teams that are ranked below you as well, because at the end of the day we've all got a duty to grow this game. We've seen it, obviously Thailand here at this tournament have been outstanding, and I'm sure they'll take a lot away from their time here, and it's part of our role is to play those teams and raise the standard of women's cricket.
Last one, yeah, last one.
Ahead of the tournament, you had said that you would love to play South Africa in the final. That is not to be, unfortunately. Which are the two teams, in your opinion, who are the strongest contenders to make it to the MCG on March 8th?
Oh, I have to say Australia because they beat us. It's not going to happen because I'd say Australia, South Africa, which might not happen depending on what happens tomorrow. But again, I don't know. And I think that's the great thing about this tournament is I honestly do not know who's going to win this competition, because every team is so even, and especially T20 cricket, it just takes one player to change the game. So, look, I'm going to probably sulk for a day or two, and then I'm going to be like any other fan watching this tournament, because it's a fantastic exhibition of the women's game, and hopefully I can find some ticket to get to the ground and maybe see me streak with Katy Perry performing there maybe. But yeah, look, I think it's going to be such a close tournament, and I wish I was there playing at the MCG, not to be, so I'll be watching from the stands. Thank you. Oh, there we go. Sweet. Might hit you up.
Meg, how relieved are you? How worried were you at any point within that game?
Yeah, it's certainly nice to have a win against a really good team. I thought it was a really good performance from us. I think we started well. We were able to sort of calm the situation down early with Beth Mooney playing a really good hand for us. And we were under the pump with the ball a little bit, but I thought we really dealt with it extremely well. And, to get over the line against a really good New Zealand team. Relief's a good word. Our first challenge for this tournament was to get through the group stage. And, to know that we've done that now, certainly a nice feeling. But looking forward to what the next few days hold as well.
Obviously, the big thing everyone wants to know is how's Elise Perry? What can you tell us about her?
I can't tell you much. We're not sure at the moment. It's a hamstring, but what the extent of it is, we're not sure. So, really unfortunate for her to have to go off. She's a really tough player, and we'll just have to see what pans out over the next few days.
And just a last one from me, just on you didn't decide not to bowl Annabelle. Was there reasons for that?
Not really. It just didn't sort of pan out that way. We sort of felt like spin was a good option. Obviously, with Georgia bowling so well as well, she bowled her full 4 overs. So yeah, it was just sort of situational. It wasn't a plan going in. She was always there if we needed, but just went to other bowlers today.
Meg, I think it's been a little while since you've come in at 3 at the fall of Alyssa's wicket. Just some thinking behind that, and I suppose the tempo that was able to build steadily over the innings.
Yeah, that was a decision that we made for this game, purely based on matchups and how I guess New Zealand had bowled throughout their innings in other games, and we felt that I was a better matchup against their sort of bowlers in the first 6. So it's worked pretty well today, I think. But Ash Gardner can do just as good a job, and depending on the situation. So we'll assess depending on our next opponent for the next game, and that might happen again. It might be different. We'll just have to see.
And obviously Georgia bowled very well today, but the increasing role of spin over the tournament, it seems. I mean, obviously you lost Taylor, and there's obviously a cloud over Elise, but the pitches as well, it seems to have been, spin has played a much bigger role perhaps in this tournament than some people maybe expected.
Perhaps, yeah. I think as the tournament goes on, obviously the wickets are played on a lot more and they become a little bit slower and lower. And I guess pace off the ball makes it more difficult for the batters to create it. So that seemed to work for us today. And I guess it just depends on where you're playing the SCG. I guess we're not really sure what we're going to get. There's been no games on there so far. So, we'll just have to look at that. But I think spin's played a massive role across T20 cricket for a long time now. And I guess when you are under the pump and as batters, you've got to sort of force the issue a little bit. It is more difficult to do it against the slower pace.
Georgia, obviously you've been a bit in and out of the side of late. Did you sort of cast your mind back to, say, the West Indies tour in September when you came on to bowl today in terms of, the things you can do well and have done well for Australia?
I think it's probably something I'd probably look back on and see how I did things during that tournament and what worked for me. And I think, I guess, implementing those little things in today kind of helped out. But I guess knowing that I guess I can play that sort of role in the team, because I guess I did that in the last World Cup. Gives me a bit of confidence, and it definitely sort of helped out today.
And what was the conversation like around the LBW? Pretty straight, but bit of height, I suppose, being the doubt.
I was sort of confident that it was out, but I think Midge had a pretty big say. Usually have most.
Yeah, there was a bit of talk about maybe being too high. As soon as we sort of felt she hadn't hit it. It was worth the gamble, I guess, and it paid off, which was nice.
Georgia, it looked like you and Midge sort of pat each other on the back after the divine dismissal. What was the plan there?
That's probably something that's been in the works for a little bit. I've sort of changed around my strategy going into, I guess, T20 cricket. But yeah, just planning around, I guess, if I see the batter coming at me, I guess chucking one wide, and it worked out for me today, which was quite good. But yeah, it's been tough going, and it's finally good to get one.
Tell us a bit about your love for photography, videography, video editing. You edit your own stuff. What are the most adventurous things that you've done with Photoshop and Premiere Pro?
I have no idea how to use Photoshop. I don't use Premiere Pro, but I guess that being in the West Indies is a pretty cool spot to get some footage and stuff like that. So obviously using the drone there, and I guess I'm no professional at it, but it's obviously something that I like to do in my downtime.
Meg, you mentioned relief. Can you sort of expand on that a little bit further, given this tournament's one where you have been under a lot of scrutiny, a lot of expectation, and not just for yourself but for the team as well, given it was a hard passage to get there, particularly today?
Yeah, I think, especially over the last week or so, we've probably adjusted to that extra scrutiny and things that are happening, and that's not to say we weren't prepared. I think, just once you're actually in the middle of it, you don't really know what it's going to be like until you're actually there, and it probably took us a little bit to adjust. But we were able to scrape through with that win against Sri Lanka, and then really from then on I've just sensed a different group and a really calm group, and I thought today's performance was our best of the tournament so far. We still can get better, but that was how we want to play our cricket, and I thought we were able to really build the base there and then deliver in the back end. So I've said this before, but our first goal was to get out of the group stage, and we didn't think that was going to be easy. I guess we've always lost a group stage game. It just happened to be the first one this time around, and that probably put us under the pump more so than we've been in other tournaments. So we've had to do it slightly differently, but I think it's put us in a really good position heading into the semi-finals to be able to come through those sort of down moments, I guess, early in the tournament to where we are now. I don't think we could be better placed.
Well, how do you sort of manage that then with obviously the potential loss of Elise as well? You get through that tough time and then you get to where you want to be and you won't have Elise. I mean, how do you sort of address that? Sort of more from a sort of talking to the team perspective as opposed to who comes in. When you saw when she walked off, sort of the collective shoulders sort of slump a little bit, so you have to sort of really manage that.
Yeah, she's obviously been a massive part of our squad and team for a long time, and you can't replace her. But we've got 15 players here who can do a job, and you need a squad to win a World Cup. You can't rely on one or two players and the same 11 each game, and we're going to have to use our depth that we've got. We've said we've got a lot of depth, and I believe that, and we're just going to have to use it, and that's just the reality of it. Unfortunately, in elite sport, you get injuries and things like that, and unfortunately, Lisa's got an injury. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that, but I've got full confidence that any player who comes in can play a role, and we're just going to have to get through it and play maybe slightly differently, but that's fine. You've got to adapt.
How was Elise's demeanour just in the rooms just straight afterwards?
Oh, she was happy that we got the win, obviously, but yeah, probably a little bit down, and that's probably understandable given the situation. But yeah, we actually don't know a lot about it at the moment, so we'll just have to see.
There's no reserve day for the semis. Do you just have any thoughts on that? I mean, rain is forecast for Sydney. Have you given any thought to that?
Not really, no. We were just worrying about today. We knew that going in. I guess there wasn't any reserve days, so hopefully the forecast changes. I've seen that happen before, and hopefully we get 2 really good semi-finals in.
Meg, probably more than ever before, we're hearing Australia talk as much about matchups. You have more left-handers than in any other team. You really seem determined to use them, even to the point of in Perth we saw promoting Carey over Perry. How much has the role of data determined all this? You said you've been working on venue matchups, player matchups. Has the role of that data analysis come in even more in the last couple of years since the last T20 World Cup? I believe Sunny in your team is the one who provides that. So what's his role been like in the back room?
Yeah, there's no doubt there's been a lot more time going into data and watching games, and there's so much footage now these days that you can't really hide. And we put a lot of time into that, and we try and have a look at what the venue does and what the matchups are. But when we actually do get to the games, we go in with a plan, but we also go with gut feel as well. And that's essentially what happened in Perth. With Carey coming in instead of Perry, it was just sort of a situational sort of thing. So I think it's important that you look at the data and you're prepared, but T20 cricket changes so quickly that you need to be able to adjust, and a lot of it is on gut instinct, and that's sort of what we want to keep doing as well, because if you just go in with one plan and you want to stick to it, I think you'll come unstuck pretty quickly.
Have you as a captain ever gone against what the data says with your gut, and how has that played out, or vice versa? Has the data supported your gut?
A little bit of both. Sometimes I do things and I don't get it right, and sometimes I do something differently and it works. It's hard to tell. I think captaining in T20 cricket is a lot on instinct and what you think is going to be the best matchup. But you obviously have got your ideas going in, so it's finding the balance between that. And sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you don't.
Any example you remember? Any example you remember of either case?
Not off the top of my head. Sorry. Thank you.